Welcome back to TMZ Sports. I am your host, Mojo Mutati, and extra hype today because we got Swerve Strickland on the show, a former AEW Tag Team Champion, a former NXT North American Champion, and the winner of AEW Full Gear's Texas Deathmatch against Hangman Page. My goodness, what a weekend it was. Swerve, how we doing, my friend?
Feeling fresh. I love throwing it back in people's face when they're like, yo, there's no way y'all can top that match that y'all did at Wrestle Dream in Seattle. Oh, bet. Oh, word. Man, now we made history with that mug. I'm hyped, man. I'm happy.
Dude, I mean, check the internet. Everyone has said that that is the best death match that's ever taken place in professional wrestling. The world is still talking about it. I mean, there's so much to go into right now, but correct me if I'm wrong. That pay-per-view actually fell two years exactly to the day from your release with WWE, right?
To the day, almost to the hour that we went on as well. Because I'll never forget when I got that call. It was like 9 o'clock Eastern time, and we went on around like 6:30. So it was like all the stars aligned, and it was like a full circle moment 2 years later. And I feel like LA is becoming my like home field advantage when it comes to death matches, because that's where like in a couple years ago I did the Hell of War against AR Fox in LA. So I was like, oh man, this is like kind of coming all around. Like that date in the city means so much to me, you know.
Well, I'm definitely going to have more to ask you a little bit later on LA, something that you posted recently.
Right.
But we got to talk more about this death match. I mean, savage, ruthless, the buildup. The buildup to this match was just unbelievably intense. You actually went inside Hangman's house before the match. The entrance, there's so much to talk about. I mean, that entrance was just straight fire. I had your entrance music stuck in my head for days. I was just actually singing it right before you hopped on with us. Tell us about this day, man. Tell us about the buildup. Tell us about the match.
For one, like the dancers that came in, one in the front right or front left is my girlfriend, Alexis. She's actually spent 10 years out here in LA. So she's a dancer, actress. She does it all, like amazing performance. So check her out when you get the chance. So, and those are her friends that came through. So shout out to the ladies of Nana, I'm calling them. Nana's dance has been going crazy. He's amplified the record Big Pressure remix to a whole nother level with flash garments, directing and producing and editing and doing everything. And like for making the music video that you saw in the Jumbotron with Queso, who was behind the camera. Shout out him. Shout out Il Chris, who made the cameo in it. Shout out Guy De Silva, who made a cameo in it. Shout out the producer of the record itself, Prophet, the producer, and Khalid, who co-produced on the record. Now as of a couple of months ago, it crossed 1 million streams. And I really feel like that was off the power of Nana putting a visual and a dance to it. And then the audience just were captivated by it, and they just want to be involved so much. And then the TikTok streams went up. It just went crazy. So I'm like, a lot of people were like, is it distracting to the act that we have going on, or what the persona that I portray? I'm like, no, I'm going to amplify this. We're going to blow it up to as much as we can. In LA, La La Land, the showcase of like Hollywood, like, of course we got to go big with it. And that's so we amplified it more. The day leading up to it all day is just like, I kind of got to go into a mental place to go into matches like that. I know how much danger is involved, how much risks involved. That was the most I've ever bled in my career, like easily. So knowing that I'm going to like, there's a good chance I'm going to like bleed, and like there's going to be a good chance I won't be able to control and stop the bleeding. You kind of got to mentally prepare yourself for that kind of thing. You got to mentally prepare yourself to like not only just inflict pain, but endure it as well for the long duration of however long this match is going to go. Leading up to it, I'm always a believer of like, talk is cheap. I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. There's a lot of people in pro wrestling that are great villains. They like to perceive themselves as, and shout out to them. Shout out to those guys that are doing like on the microphone, rocking it across all industries. You know, I'm going to be one of them guys that like, no, I'm not going to just talk about it. I'm going to actually do it. Like, I'm going to reach through the screen and actually touch and be able to get close to the loved ones that you keep so dear to your heart that are at home. Oh, yeah, they're in play too, and that brings another menacing side to me as Swerve Strickland, and that you feel that emanating not only through my entrance but through the wrestling as well. And that's what I believe. Like, you got to keep that entire aura and villainy and just despicableness all throughout all your actions, the way you walk, the way you look, the way you talk, the way you the way people look and like can honestly feel something from you. And honestly, they feel like I feel like I'm becoming something that people can honestly portray in other film or portray in another form of media. And that's like, and I feel like the cherry on top was this match that we just had, the Texas Death Match. Is like, okay, he's immortalized. Now I understand the full understanding of what Swerve is, what he means, what the Mongol Embassy is, Nana, like all the traits of me. People truly understand that full through now.
After this weekend, they absolutely do. I mean, you know, the death match has kind of become a rite of passage, right? In professional wrestling, it is
Yeah.
essentially the top indicator as to how tough a wrestler is, the lengths that they're willing to go. And I'm just going to say it again, for most people's money, you just had the greatest death match in professional wrestling history. So putting that together, that is just absolutely mind blowing. You took a lot of damage. There was a lot of punishment in that match. Any singular part of that that hurt the most?
Honestly, I left the match with really big like scrape scars on the chest and the shoulder. I posted on Twitter, actually, if y'all want to check it out. It was that Hangman moonsault with the chair and barbed wire. Like, Hangman is a deceptively massive man in itself. So receiving a moonsault from him from that height and that weight, that speed and velocity already takes a lot out of you. Add in a metal chair wrapped in like probably hundreds of yards of barbed wire and a spool around it. It just scraped across me,
Oh,
along with Hangman just landing across me. So that was like out of all the brutal stuff we did in that match, that was probably the one that stuck out. Was like, oh my god, did I like tear something in my bicep or my shoulder? You know, you always want to check on yourself, make sure you're okay. And I was just like, you can see in the footage, I'm like shaking my hand to make sure I'm okay. You know, but we kept going after that, and uh, the death match, like, I don't look like someone that's like a death match wrestler or a fan of it or even partakes in it, but I've done my shares, and I actually grew up being a fan of like hardcore stuff. Shout out Mick Foley. I said on Twitter a couple years ago, I'm like, man, this generation doesn't have a Mick Foley, because like Mick Foley like was that guy on that attitude that was like doing the rite of passage to a lot of stars. You know, he did it with like the Triple H's, he did it with the Undertakers, he did it with the the Austins, he done it with the Rocks, and then the next generation, the Adam Copelands, the Randy Ortons, like uh, Brock, you know, you name them, he's gave him that rite of passage, and I feel like we don't have that anymore. It to truth be told, I when I made that tweet, I was just like, man, like, who is that guy nowadays? It might be Hangman Page. It might be.
well, got to talk about Hangman for a second too. I mean, an incredible matchup. Obviously, it takes two to tango, and he absolutely crushed it out there with you. There's no chance we couldn't ask you about the spot that everyone's talking about, the staple to the face, the blood just soaking the mat. It's coming, pouring straight out of your face. Hangman slides under you and essentially drinks it before spitting the rest into the air. I mean, how do you react when you see something like that? Obviously, pain is going through your mind, but seeing Hangman do that and the reception that he got, please talk about that.
I mean, that's pretty much why we're here, like having this conversation in the first place. You know, if you're going to go all out in a match like that, you have to release all the chains, all the handcuffs, understand that there's going to be criticism because we're gonna shake the foundation a little bit. There's, shout out to a lot of the forums that are picking up, talking about it, and discussing it. We appreciate you. I love you. Thank you for watching and really really adding to adding so much noise to the discussion about the match. But in 2023, it's become really difficult to really catch the attention across all these platforms. Like people are like coming up with 5-star matches every pay-per-view. Every pay-per-view, I think there's a 5-star match. Like, this is guaranteed. This match is put in there to have that. Or like, and I'm not even like a big fan of like 5 stars. I'm just more about the story. And if there's something memorable about it, if it happens to be 5 stars, some people receive it as that. Cool. I'm all about the business and like television and theater. And I feel like that was one of those moments, is like, that was theater. That was like cinematic. Just like, oh my God, you have to go out of your way to see this, because I can't even believe it. It's whoever has anything to complain about it, feel free, complain. I implore you. It's not a good thing to do. I don't employ anybody to do anything like that. But the fact that it was done, it makes people like, I don't believe you. I got to go see this for myself. And that's what that was. We push boundaries. That's what AEW was built on: pushing boundaries, doing things that other places just couldn't do or not able to do, or you're not be able to see that anywhere else. Like, there's been like another product that's been doing it for so long. They're excellent at what they do. We got to find what we're excellent at what we do. And that was like the pinnacle of what AEW was like. That's what we do. We are excellent at what we do. And then and then following, having Will Ospreay sign his contract, I'm like, man, we're loaded. We're stacked. There's no other roster in the world like us. But now it's got to show us like, okay, we got that guy coming in. This is a game changer of this generation, elite. Now we got to cement ourselves as why we are the game changers and we're elite as well, because guys like Will Ospreay want to be here and choose AEW over going anywhere else in the world when the Brinks truck is brought out to him.
So, hey, man, career weekend. Where do you go from here? What's next? All the momentum in the world on your side. Now you're, of course, and you're used to this questions that everyone's going to ask. How do you top that? How do you top that? What you doing next, my man?
I don't even know how to top anything like that. Like, but people were saying, how do I top the Hell of War match 6 years ago? People said the same thing then, and I don't know. You never think about how you top something when you're setting it, So I know there's a little continental tournament starting up soon. I'd like to get a piece of that. Like, I know there's going to be some heavy hitters, and when those names and those brackets start getting announced, I don't know. Maybe you might see me, maybe you might not, but I know there's going to be some heavy hitters coming up in there, and I definitely might want to be a part of that, because, man, I feel like I catapulted myself as one of the top guys in the industry. And like I said this before earlier this year, and it made a lot of noise then. Like, I really feel like I can be the first African American AEW World Champion, and I have no problem saying and stating like I'm in a league of my own when it comes to that. I really am.
And I think you proved that this weekend, and I know that's something the fans would love to see. You're on top of the world, my man. I mean, just last question. I know you got a busy day, you got a lot going on, and you're still probably recovering from that match. I mean, I had a feeling you have unfinished business. You have other things you want to accomplish within a wrestling ring. But I saw a couple videos online. It looks like you might have some issues inside of a football stadium, maybe perhaps for some gimmick infringement. Saw you at the LA Rams game. They're stealing your line. Whose house? We saw your face afterwards. Talk about that for a second.
Yo, just doing it in my face. It's like they knew I was there and they were just gloating, and watching them just say it over and over again. I was like, oh, I'm about to run up to Stan Kroenke and kick his door down. And but honestly, I came up with Whose House, Swerve's House back in like 2015, 2016. They came up with that as soon as that stadium was built, which was like in 2020, 2021. So I don't know where the signals are, but I know there's some trademark issues that's going on here. But you know, I'll forgive them because they won me a Super Bowl. I'm a LA Rams fan. They won me a Super Bowl this decade, and I actually got to go to the banquet the night of them winning the Super Bowl, and I got to meet Aaron Donald. So I was forgiven. They can have whose house? Rams house. I'll admire from afar, and I'll always be a supporter. But that was my first time actually being in the stadium, actually hearing it and seeing it. Now I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah. Well, if you change your mind and you decide to go over there and settle some things, TMZ is based in LA, so just tip us off first so we can get the shot.
If I get a percentage if I can defend 10 passes. I get one defense on Cooper Kupp. I'll say that. Like if I can defend one pass on 10 attempts with Cooper Kupp, then I was like, all right, I get like 3% of this whose house merchandise.
There you go. That sounds like a fair trade to me. Obviously, not an easy task. Swerve, thank you so much for joining us today, my friend. As a friend, awesome to see how far you've come the weekend that you had. A huge congrats. Can't wait to see what's coming next. Swerve Strickland, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's get it.